She understood what they'd lost.
Being a mother and being a grandmother, I've learned to understand that when we go through a period.
Yay. Yay.
Hello, hi.
I started to worry because I'm always early, so nobody worries. And I'm like, oh no.
I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I threw out I've had the worst, craziest, but I threw out my back, and so I had to do this for my office because it's just my house is too crazy. So I'm here.
Well, so I'm honored, but I'm sorry
to get here.
I'm sorry about your back. What were you doing? Just bend over or something?
It's so here's the short version of the very long story.
Tell me.
In the beginning of December, I had a detached retina and I had to have surgery to repair it. And part of post-surgery is being like on your side or being upside down, like face down for 2 weeks.
Oh my.
And I'm still really recovering. My back is the thing that suffered the most. So such is life. But this morning I woke up and I could like barely move. It's crazy.
Oh God. Oh no.
Drugs because I got to be on tonight. So.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm totally available. I would move it for you. No worries.
No. We have a bunch of people coming and I wouldn't want to do that. So I'm also a graduate of Penn.
Yay!
We didn't go at the same time, but my dad graduated in '64 and I graduated in '93.
Oh, I knew you were a baby.
And yeah, I'm turning 50 tomorrow.
Oh my, well, geez, do you have enough going on?
But anyway, when I was like reading, I don't remember where I was reading, that you went there and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, So totally loved it at Penn.
I loved it, right? It's great.
So great. One of my kids is applying to college next year, and he could kind of go anywhere except he's like a white Jewish kid from Long Island, so that doesn't really help him. So Penn is like a safety.
Nice.
Not for me, but
not for me. I applied early. I was like, I'm gonna maximize all my chances.
I applied early. I only wanted to go there. My favorite place.
That's the girl I am. That's exactly right.
God, I mean, I was
Let's get married.
Like I was afraid on December 15th to do anything different because I didn't want to like mess up the juju of the day and like, you know what I mean? But drove home after school, December 15th, the letter was waiting. It was the happiest day.
It's happiest day. I know I was waitlisted at the law school and that was torture. And I was like, I would call every day. And it was like, you're 11. Now you move. They were rooting for me by the end. It's the most wonderful thing. I love that. I love that school.
It's a great place. It looks so different now, but it's like amazing how much the campus has developed and grown over time.
Right.
And so many of the things that like were fun are gone, but other things that are fun are there. And it's still.
What did you major in?
I was a history major. I was like 8 different majors. And then I was a history major and I should have been an English major. And because it turns out like I was just afraid of like I'm such a I procrastinate when I write, and so I was so afraid of being an English major and then like having to write all those papers was just stupid because then I was a history major and I had to write a million papers.
So many papers. Although I was so sad to see did you have Gregorian?
I did.
Did you have Gregorian? He was so good. This is old talk because I know he passed away, and I was like, it made me understand about the cultural history, which I've used like in my job all the time. History is great. I'm in love with it. It's funny because I feel like I should have been a history major. So
what did you major in?
English.
So it's so funny. My son came in last night. He's like, Mom, I'm reading the Canterbury Tales, and I'm like, I read the Canterbury Tales in college. We read Paradise Lost, Canterbury Tales. Like, can we talk about it? I'm like, wait till you get to the gap-toothed woman. Let's talk about what that.
Oh, it's so great.
It was like, so.
I was this is nerding out because I was so excited that there's a new Macbeth. You see, there's a new Denzel Washington.
I did hear that.
And I think he directed it. Frances McDormand, which I'm like, I don't really see her as the queen, but I'll work with it. Look,
I can see her as anything.
yeah, that's kind of true. She is so great. I
Yeah,
love her as Margot.
oh my God, she's just a genius. I also loved her in the Three Billboards movie. Forget what that was. You know what I'm
Yes,
talking
it was
about?
called like Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing something.
Yes, yeah. Ooh, you're good.
Please, I live in this. I live alone. All I do is watch and write. It's a whole
It's
thing.
amazing. Did you watch Tick Tick Boom?
Yes. Well, I'm a Sondheim freak,
Fill
so
my heart.
I know, I know, I know. The story of Jonathan Larson just kills you, doesn't it?
I could not stop crying.
I felt I was the
I
same.
could not stop crying. And I was trying to explain to my kids because I, graduated high school in 89, went to college and graduated in 93. He's a little bit older than me, but
Ugh,
from White Plains. I'm from Scarsdale, Jewish guy. I just was like,
adorable.
I was so amazingly talented, so beautifully played by Andrew, whatever his name,
Right.
Garfield.
Garfield,
And I
yeah.
was saying to my kids, like, you don't understand. Like, we all thought that all these guys had a death sentence. Like, I just, and when the friend lives and he dies, and oh my
Ah,
God, it just killed. And by the way, he died from Marfan syndrome. I
I,
have Marfan syndrome, as do two of my sons and my father. So telling you, I'm fine. We're fine. Early detection, blah, blah, blah. But like, oh my God, so crying and crying and crying. Amazing.
no,
Also,
amazing, amazing. No, this has been a really emotional time because Sondheim passing.
I
And my
know.
daughter lives in the West Village, so she got me tickets to Company, which was delayed because of the pandemic. And then we went together and we saw it the opening night when he was in the audience. And so he died like 3 days later.
Oh my
And
God, how lucky were you?
between Betty White and I just can't.
I mean, why did they plan a birthday party for her? How could that have been a good idea? I mean, come on.
But I love somebody on Twitter. I go on Twitter a lot, and that's my downtime.
Yeah,
And somebody said, imagine living a life that when you're 99 years old, people think it still wasn't enough.
I know. It's pretty amazing, right? Pretty
Well, this
amazing.
is such an honor to meet you, and you're so nice and down to earth. Oh my God.
It's very nice to meet you too, and always nice to meet a fellow Quaker. And I'm like looking for the bio that your people are amazing. Here it is.
Thank you, but you don't need to do it. I'll do
I
it.
don't. Okay, good. I'm just
Don't
gonna be
sweat it.
like, here's your full press kit. I'm just gonna say, well, yeah. So it's okay is it okay that I'm recording this?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay, great. And what time is it?
Yeah, so let's talk about what, like, I
Okay.
can do anything, but basically I talk for like 25 minutes. I try to be entertaining and tell them the stuff behind the book. It's not going to be like, my book says this. I don't do that.
No,
Okay.
be entertaining. Talk about the stuff behind the book. That's great. Some people already read the book. Some people haven't read the book yet.
Mhm.
There were so what this is this like the short story of this is, so I'm in a small synagogue on Long Island, and so to enable to make sure that we have like a good showing,
Mhm.
I talked to colleagues who have similarly sized congregations around the East Coast. And so we'll have people from Florida, Canada, Michigan, all over the place, whatever.
Wonderful.
And I don't know if they've read the book, but my people, we've read the book. We talked about it today. They have questions. It's actually
Good.
great. They have questions, which is great.
Right.
And I will just say that I listened to the book. It's a super long listen. I couldn't read it because I had surgery and I wasn't allowed to read.
Oh God.
So, by the way, it's a very painful to read to listen to, because you're like when the sister came back from England, I was like, don't come back. Go back to London. Like, what are you doing?
Rosa, what are you thinking?
And I'm the kind of person that skips ahead. So I like to read the ending, but I couldn't because I was listening and I was afraid I'd lose my spot. So I'm like, oh my God, I can't even look at the book because I couldn't see anything. And I was like, this is just, I can't.
You are amazing.
Tension.
Well,
I don't like tension.
I give you so much credit. I am so honored that you have. Nevertheless, she persisted big time here. I'm telling you. Wow.
I'm in. So, okay. So anyway, we will have, so talk as long as you want. People totally want to hear you talk. It's a smart crew. They're really interested in like you. They're interested in the book. They're interested in the topic. They're interested in how you did your research. They're interested in how you developed your characters. They're interested in why you decided to write about this.
Mhm.
And I mean, I read a couple of articles like to prepare. I mean, so it's like, I know it's interesting, and this is a total break from what you normally do, right?
Right, right. It's actually sort of a whole new direction.
Yeah, so that's super interesting. Do you normally write like criminal? What do you normally write?
I write like thrillers. I write
Yeah, so
family.
like, so you go.
No, I just write about it's like Law and Justice, but family
Right.
thrillers kind of.
Right, so that's why I haven't read any of your books, because thrillers give me a heart attack.
Yeah.
And I literally can't. I don't watch them. I don't read them. If I do, I would read the last 3 chapters before I even started the book. Like, I can't. My parents do.
That's good because you have such a good heart. You're putting so much love into the world and you're helping people.
I can't.
I
I
can't even
just
believe it.
I'm like, I can't. And I've read, like, I can read. Truthfully, every book I read almost everyone, except for like the super trashy historical romance books, which even then I read the last chapter. But like every book, almost I have to read the ends just so that
I
can
actually do the
prepare
exact
myself.
same thing. I just want to know who lives.
Yeah, and then I can accept whatever
Then
happens.
I'll calm down. I feel the exact same way. Actually, my daughter introduced me to this website called like Does the Dog Die? Because we want to know before we watch anything. If there's a horse, a dog, a cat, we just want to know, is anything going to die? We don't watch it if it does. It's very simple.
I'm writing that down right now. That's like
DoesTheDogDie.com. You're going to laugh and laugh.
I'm telling you, I do that for everything.
Me too,
I
me
just
too.
can't. Whatever. And I, by the way, I also went to law school, but I went to Fordham. I didn't go to Penn.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
I was a divorce attorney.
Oh, God, that's wonderful.
It was good work. I loved it.
Oh, it's so important. I'm divorced twice. Oh my God, I wish you had been my lawyer. Oh, what a
Well,
nightmare.
I mean, you just see, I really felt I just felt super called to ultimately become a rabbi, which is why I became a rabbi. But I loved it. I went to law school to become a divorce attorney. I just felt like it was such important, holy work, and that
Right.
the world needs more good people in divorce law. But then when you become a divorce lawyer, you're like, oh, not everyone got the memo. Like a lot of really bad, like stupid people who like just churn fees, don't know how to spell, forgot to use spell check, put motions forth that are so stupid and ridiculous and expensive. Then you're like, I don't know. I think I want to do a baby naming. Anyway.
Well, I'm just so honored that you just kind of embraced the book and to meet you. And
I loved it. It was great. I didn't get to quite the end. So today I found out how it ended because I missed the last few. I couldn't.
you have a lot. You have a million things going on. Plus your birthday.
Plus my birthday. And the book is 18 hours. I'm like a really fast reader. And the book was so long. The you know what I'm talking about, was the audio was so
I know.
long.
I listened to the audio because I thought Ballerini is so good. I thought he was
my
so
God.
good.
The people who read it were incredible.
They were incredible. And I just felt like I'm in that world in a different kind of way, right?
It was amazing.
What talent they have.
It. I
love audiobooks. Because I walk the dogs around the block. It's like 2 miles. And every day it's like my chill out time.
It was awesome. Anyway, all right. Super nice to meet you. I'm going to let everyone in. Just telling you, my mother will probably be there. I'm going to probably say hello to her. Just like 2 minutes of just saying hello to people and then we'll start. Okay.
Okay. You are the best. Thank you for this.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here for sure. Like really, really, really thank you.
Feel better and happy birthday. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Go Penn.
Go Quakers.
Morning in
Oh, I have to mute all of you. There are many people on.
Putting this.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Why
Hi,
can't I get the video to start?
you having trouble getting your videos to work?
The camera is on, so do not talk to me.
Hello and good to see ya.
I don't know why my picture's not up. It's not.
Hi, Mom.
Hello there.
How you
So,
doing?
the weather's gorgeous.
You know what? You can stop throwing your Florida weather in my face.
Oh,
All right. Just everyone wish me a happy birthday. I'm turning 50 tomorrow. It's a big one.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I know
Mom, you're
what's
so
going on.
old. Do you even remember your 50th birthday? Right, I don't know. I'm muting everyone.
Have a
Somebody-
50-year-old
oh
daughter.
my God. People, hold on. Okay, I muted all of you because somebody's eating chips in my ear and we can't be doing that, but it's very nice to see all of you. The time on my phone is 8:04. The time on my clock is 8 o'clock. So we're going by the clock in my office instead, even though we know Apple is watching us and has the time correct. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Rabbi Elisabetta. I'm the rabbi at Port Jewish Center here in Port Washington. And I am thrilled to welcome you this evening. And I know I'm welcoming friends from all over the place, small congregations up and down the East Coast, generally speaking, and one from Michigan. Would love for you to put in the chat box where you're coming from if you're not coming from Port Washington. And even if you are, it would be great to see where you're here from. And we're super happy to see you. As I said, tonight we are welcoming Lisa Scottoline, who's the author of lots of fantastic books. And most recently, she's the author of Eternal. And I asked Lisa if I should read her bio and tell you lots about her. And she said, nah, I'll do it myself. So I'm going to let her, but it's especially always nice to see a fellow Quaker. Lisa graduated from Penn just like a year or two before me. And so it's great to have a fellow Quaker here. And welcome, please help me welcome friends, Lisa Scottoline. So now, Lisa, you just have to unmute yourself and we're good to go. Okay.
Rabbi, are you the nicest ever? Where's your mommy? Because she raised you right. You are so charming and so brilliant and so down to earth. I thought I saw her somewhere.
She's
Thank
right
you.
there. And the funny thing is that Lisa, on my screen, sitting right next to her is my mother-in-law, who's just as nice as my mommy. So wave, Lynn. Okay.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm so happy. Well, I
Thank
feel
you.
so happy and so honored to be among you all. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this. And welcome. What I like to do is I don't want to bore you. I mean, I'm divorced twice and there's a reason for that. I tend to go on and I live alone now, so I never shut up. But what I would do is kind of tell you the stuff that's behind the book that you don't really get from reading the book. And then we'll open it up to questions of anything you want to know, because I want to answer your questions. And but above all, what I want you to hear, specifically Rabbi Mendelson and all of you, is how honored I am and how grateful I am that the book has been so well received by the community. And I just want to say thank you. No one says it enough. I say it all the time, especially tonight. So thank you. Now, I guess the obvious question is why did you write this book? Because, sorry, my radiator is going to make noise. I'm sort of a best-selling author, and I have been for 30 years, and I've written a lot of family thrillers. Before that, I was a lawyer. I've been a law professor. I'm interested. Thank you, Michelle, for nodding. I appreciate that. I'm always interested about law and justice and family and all the things that, we care about. And so that's what I wrote about. I kind of think a little bit, just to let you in on my secret side, that I love Nancy Drew. I really think that when I grew up, I wanted to write Nancy Drew with a mortgage. That was it. Because especially in crime fiction, and I started in 1994, the rabbi's so nice to say, I went to Penn a few years before. I went into Penn in the Jurassic, okay? She's a little baby girl having her birthday tomorrow, but I'm 66 and feel every minute of it. And I basically, so I loved writing that stuff, and I really wanted to see women main characters. I had been a lawyer. I thought, why are the women still pouring coffee in these books? So that's what I wrote for 33 years, but all 33 books in 33 years. But my whole life, I have in the back of my mind a book I wanted to write from my days at Penn, because I was an English major there. And as such, I was so lucky to be in a class that was taught by Philip Roth, the late Philip Roth. He was, there was a 2 or 3 year period when he taught at Penn. He would come in 1 day a week, and it was a class about the novel. And it was like taking physics from Einstein. Like he would basically say, here's why this not, I will show you rather than tell you, because I took a picture of him. This is him. Philip Roth, 1975, the University of Pennsylvania. I took this picture because I was on the yearbook staff as a photographer. And I thought, you can graduate this damn school, but you're going to get a picture of Philip Roth out of it. And here it is. And what's amazing about it is that he would sit for 2 hours and just talk about the book, why it worked. He actually broke it down. No notes, by the way, just sheer extemp. Why does Madame Flaubert work? Why is he writing about this? Why this theme? Why this paragraph? Why this sentence? Why this verb? Why this image? Why this metaphor? Really teach us. It was a masterclass. But one of the most amazing things he did was, and there was only 15 of us in the class, he wanted to teach us and introduce us to authors whom we might not have read before. And one such was Primo Levi, about whom you may have heard. I'm embarrassed to say had never heard of him, but in the 1970s in America, not a lot of people had. But he wrote Survival in Auschwitz, which is what it was called here. Also, If This Is a Man, what it was called elsewhere. And it's this incredible memoir of his time in Auschwitz. Thank God he survived. He was an Italian fascist, anti-fascist, an Italian chemist. He was captured by the Nazis, taken to the camp I'm not going to give anything away in the book because some of you haven't read it, but taken to the actual camp in the book, which I visited, and there to Auschwitz, and thank God survived and wrote the most incredible memoir. I know many of you have read a lot of Holocaust nonfiction and fiction, but really, if you haven't read this yet, you should, because it is the voice is absolutely harrowing but beautiful. And if you can imagine, as an Italian, when he's in that camp, of course, he analogizes it, Auschwitz, to Inferno. And so it's not only brilliant and erudite, but insightful, but at the same time has a unique, I want to say, charm. And I'm not the first person to observe that. So I never forgot that book. And part of the reason why was, that's redundant, part of the reason was that I don't really have a religion. In my family, we were raised without a religion. But I feel pretty strongly that I'm Italian American. I feel that. And I'm Italian American, raised in a Jewish neighborhood. And so I have a lot of flavor, and I'm proud of that. But it really bothered me over the years that what Italy did during fascism. Because since the book stuck in my mind, I was like, what happened during Mussolini? And why did the Italians follow Mussolini? And how do I square that with a country that I've visited many times and really love? And so it was nagging at me. And then, I don't know how old you guys are, but at some point I just said, if you don't do this, you're never going to forgive yourself. And also, like a lot of women, I'll just speak for myself, but I'm a little insecure. So I didn't know if I had the chops, frankly. Like Sheryl Sandberg in Lean In says, women tend to feel they can't take risk. They're not ready. I felt like I was not ready. I was not ready for 35 years. And finally, I said, you got to do it. And so I did all this time doing all this research, learning everything about fascism, Italian Jews, learned remarkable facts, namely that the Jewish community in Rome, localized in the ghetto, so-called, is the oldest continuously existing Jewish community outside in Western civilization. Okay, that's remarkable. The second fact I learned, which I thought was really interesting, and was that unlike Nazism, which began as anti-Semitic, fascism did not start out, it was born in Italy. Mussolini's was the first fascist party, okay? It did not start its life as anti-Semitic because Italy had a Jewish population, was a minority. It was completely assimilated. The intermarriage rate was 50%. The mayor of Rome was Jewish. Jews held positions in government, in the professions, in education. There wasn't anti-Semitism. And so, it would naturally follow that Jews joined the fascist party, actually in the same percentage as Gentiles. It was kind of a more conservative-minded party. So they were attracted to the idea of like being law and order, business, like all that good stuff. And I guess as I got older, I just couldn't believe that except for the Garden of the Finzi Cantinis, there hasn't been much written about the Jews in Italy, and certainly not about the Jews of Rome. And it drives me nuts. So I said, because the more I understood about it, I said, well, this is kind of in my bailiwick because I am very interested in law leads to justice. You know, and Nancy Drew, right? You get the bad guys, you bring them to justice. It's like Perry Mason, if anybody knows who the hell I'm talking about. Please, God, somebody nod. Thank you. Perry Mason law leads to, thank you, Marcia. Right, but that's how it's supposed to be. But really, a more modern view, when you think of something like To Kill a Mockingbird, you see law doesn't always lead to justice, right? Law can depend on whether you're Black, whether you're poor, whether you, whatever, right? And then there are times when law actually thwarts justice. And there's a lot of procedural law that arose, like the Miranda warnings that confuse people. And that's very interesting to me. And the ultimate of these convolution of law and justice is when law itself perpetrates injustice. And that happens in fascist Italy. That also happens in the Nuremberg laws, laws that codify discrimination against Jews. That's really remarkable. So I said, you've got to write this book. Now, having only written books about strong, like Nancy Drew types with blue roadsters and stuff, all contemporary, I'm like, how are you going to do this? I never write with an outline. Are you surprised? Like, you've met me. You know me for 7 minutes. You could guess that. Although I did get my roots done on time for you, so I want a little credit. In any event, I was like, how will I do this? Well, I thought, all right, just write it like you would any other book. Begin at the beginning. She's a young, independent, strong girl. And it's going to be about her coming of age. You know, there's a little trade secret I'll let you in on. Authors say that there are two plots in the world. One is a man goes on a journey, and the other is a stranger comes to town. It's kind of interesting. Eternal is a man goes on a journey. Coming of age will be a man goes on a journey. And here she is a young girl. And I said, well, you have to personalize her because you can't write nonfiction. All of the nonfiction books I used are behind me. But I said, I've got to popularize this. I've got to make this real for people who don't know about it and maybe aren't even sure they want to read about this subject. Because what gave me courage was that I said to myself, and it's something we all learned with this pandemic, which is this. People who are entering a period that is significant historically do not know it going in, right? You're just living your life. Here we are last March. Oh, this flu thing doesn't look good. Next thing you know, I'm a single mom. I have my daughter in New York. I'm like, get home, right? We live day to day. And I said, that's kind of what happened. So here's Elisabetta. She is entering the 20-year period of Mussolini's reign, the Ventennio. But she's just a girl and she needs a bra. I want you to remember when you wanted a bra, but I'm maybe too personal. I said, give her that because that's what I went through. That what happened to her is what happened to me in the 6th grade. I was a tomboy. The girls came up to me. They're like, you need, and you're only wearing an undershirt. You need a bra. And I was like, oh God, I was mortified. Like I carried my books like this. Remember when you ever did this, ladies? Maybe you did. And I would come home that night. I came home to my mom, who was a secretary, and she was a wonderful mother, unlike this one. And I said, Mom, I need a bra. And she's like, you're damn right you do. And we went out that night. We bought the bra, and then we went to a place called Horn and Hard Arts. Does anybody, oh God, I'm home. I love you, God. Sherry Mendelson, girl, you raised a great kid, and you know Horn and Hard Arts. The vanilla apple pie with the sauce is hot. Okay. My mouth is watering. So I said, give her that uncertainty. That's a way of talking about sexual identity that's a little more palatable. And then she has these two guys to choose from. Well, the first one's gorgeous, Marco, handsome, most popular guy in school, super athletic, shiny hair, the whole thing. But I was like, well, give him something. Now, it just so happens that my best friend is also a lawyer, and she's a special needs lawyer. She represents special needs kids in the school district. So I do a lot with her, and we're always raising money for dyslexia because we're both book people. And we're like, So I said, well, make him dyslexic. And then I realized pretty quickly, because all this time I'm doing research, too boring to tell you about. But one of the things I did is behind me, which is that I started to read all of Mussolini's speeches. Because, you know, the myth and what you hear is that, to go back to this original question I have, why did the Italians follow Mussolini? The myth is that Mussolini made the trains run on time. And the more I read about what happened during that time and more that I read his speeches, I realized that is complete BS. Because if you've spent 10 minutes in Italy, you know that nothing runs on time, right? You meet any Italian, you meet an Italian American, they don't care about time, right? It doesn't matter. Here's what matters to Italians: carbohydrates and love. Food and love and family. That's what Jews and Italians are, the same people. I'm just telling you that. So I said, but what I started to see in his speeches was what he said all the time, which was you're very special merely because you're Italian, and also specifically Roman. He says, look at the glory that was Rome. We conquered the globe. This civilization is the greatest on the planet. And I realized that in a way that would help me answer my initial question, because Marco, who feels inferior because of his dyslexia, and when you talk to people, especially back then in 1930s Rome, but I did that research, I didn't talk to anybody, but certainly I talked to people who were diagnosed with dyslexia late. And what one girl told me, who was a student in school, she was in middle school by the time she was diagnosed, and she said, it's terrible. I said, what did it feel like? She said, you know you're behind everybody, so you feel stupid and you don't even know why. And I thought, that's heartbreaking. That's just heartbreaking. And also that's how Marco must be feeling, because his girlfriend loves books and his best friend, Sandro, is like a certified genius. And so then we come to Sandro. And I guess I loved him as a character because I think he's so thoughtful. He's so intelligent. He listens. He's a good listener. And also he's handsome. And so she has these great, this is the part where I get to fantasize for a living, because there's like two guys in love with you. And even though you're in sixth grade, it's fine. So she's going to choose, right? And then I start the story. And through this, we are going to tell the story, not of just only of these three young people, but of these three families. Because as you see, Marco goes off in this direction into fascism. When this book opens, they're all fascists. I kind of soft pedaled it in the beginning because I wanted you to see them as people first, because that's who they were first. And then and almost every book is about identity, at least every one I write, because you're trying to write something that's character driven. And so you're going to plumb somebody's psyche over time. And so you have Marco saying things like, as he starts to understand that a party that he has just joined is pitting him against his best friend. Because what happens under Italian fascism is that as soon as Mussolini decides to take a side with Hitler, he enacts a barrage of anti-Semitic laws that are death by 1,000 cuts to the Jewish community, right? And they actually go, interestingly, not just to taking away livelihoods, but to the very heart of identity. And I really a little bit wanted this book to be an exploration of identity, because whenever you look at these things, these fundamental polarization points, politics, for example, I am this, I am that. I think about that a lot. Just in terms of, for example, I will let you know that I am an Eagles fan. Secondly, a Giants fan, but I'm an Eagles fan, right? And when you hang out with our other Eagles fans, as we used to in happier times, I remember a friend of mine said something like, I bleed green. And I thought, this is so interesting, because when is it that something you like, you internalize so much that it becomes who you are? And that's exactly what happens in this book. So that Marco goes off in this direction, cleaving to this fascist point, and as these terrible anti-Semitic laws are enacted, first, throw the kids out of school who are Jewish, and the Jewish teachers, take the property of the Jews, take their profession away, take their party membership away, and ultimately take their Italian citizenship away. Strip them down, completely dehumanize them. And you see Massimo is a character I like a lot, because Massimo believes in justice. I'm a little bit like Massimo. I really still believe, and he believes till the end. But he has to question his own identity, because he joins the fascist party, but he evidently isn't fascist enough, not fascist enough as Beppe, who was a fascist of the first hour. And so that's the kind of stuff that happens. And then I really wanted to come to the Nazi occupation, because there's a part of me that I'm still a lawyer, and I still like to be the there's a matter of record that had to happen here, because as soon as I knew I was taking on this subject, I also realized that there was no popular American fiction about the Jews of Rome. And so I said to myself, this has to be complete, like definitive. And I'm not bragging when I say that, just there was so much information. I wrote a 1,000-page manuscript. My editor said, this is kind of long. I said, you think? But anyway, I shortened it a little. But the point is, I wanted to show the interplay of fascism. And I wanted to also show everything that the Nazis did. I'll tell you a quick minute, and then we'll turn it over to questions. Because when you look at the Nazi chronology, it's very interesting. There's a lot of flipping in this book. The ultimate flipping in this book comes from Italy itself, which changed sides. You know, here they were, everybody secretly banking, excuse me, I get so excited. Everybody secretly banking on the fact that knowing that Rome is the seat of the Vatican, right? It's the seat of Roman Catholicism. And everybody kind of thought, Italy is not going to get bombed. Jews are going to be safe here. First, because there was such a good policy in Italy that was not prejudicial. And what happened as a result is Jews from around Europe came to Italy thinking it would be safe haven. Everybody was betting that nobody would bomb Rome because the Vatican was there. And in the end, the Vatican was bombed by the Nazis and by the Allies. So the irony, there's so many doubling and ironies. And so here come the Nazis, who frankly, the Jewish community was primed for what the Nazis would do. And what the Nazis do is an interesting quick chronology. Let me run it by. Because the first thing they do, and I'll end it with a question for you. The first thing the Nazis do is they take the Carabinieri away, leaving Rome defenseless. They sack the library. No, they sack the synagogue. They take the money. They're thieves. They sack the library, and that is a true scene. They threw things out the window. Priceless patrimony of the Jewish community and the world community, all housed at the synagogue, which of course I visited many times. Then they play this terrible cat and mouse game. I didn't make this up. I placed characters there, but I wanted it to come to life. But I didn't make up this thing where they do the Gold of Rome episode. They renege on that, arrest as many Jews as they can, centered in the ghetto, send them to the Collegio Militare, which I also visited. By the way, I should say that if you want to see these places, I took little videos and they're all on my website. You can go see them. It's a nice companion to the book for your book club or for you. They send them to Auschwitz. The estimates are there were about 1,500 Roman Jews sent to Auschwitz and 15 return. But what's interesting when I hear that chronology too, I say to myself, why did they do it in that order? The Nazis could have, for example, arrested all the Roman police, the Carabinieri, then arrested all the Jews and sent them away. And then they would have had the path of least resistance. Sack the library, sack the houses, sack whatever you want, no resistance. And I did work with a historian on this. And I said, you know, I can't think of a reason why they did that except just cruelty. And he said, yeah, but that's what we all think too. And it was so fascinating to me because even when I spoke to another historian, because what bothered me so much, and I'd been to Rome many times, I'm published in Italy. I'm actually a #1 author in Italy. And my editor took me through the ghetto and she's like, oh, you'll have the artichokes. I'm like, there was a crime committed here. This is a war crime. And I said to this other historian, why was there no Nuremberg-like trial about what happened to the Jews of Rome? And he said to me, nobody wanted another Nuremberg. And I said, well, I do. And ultimately, of course, I made my last trip to Rome before the pandemic, and it was on the 75th anniversary of the mass arrest and murder of the Jews of the ghetto. And so I went to the ceremonies that were there and the memorials. There was one memorial, and it was just so moving. And it was, what they did was at the front, of course, family is there, friends are there, and they wrote the name of each person who had been taken that day. And people noticed me. I mean, I understand Italian, but I don't really speak it. I'm kind of there. I'm being respectful, but I am listening and taking notes, and they kind of all know each other. And so I talked to one or two people and I said, how do you feel about me writing this? And they were like, we wish you would. We wish more people knew what happened. And I said, okay, I'm going to overcome all of my insecurity and do this. And that was really what I really wanted, was to do the victims that service. Because as a lawyer, and anybody cares about justice, you don't need a legal degree, and you don't need to be Jewish either. You just go, a wrong was committed here. And as a lawyer, you kind of want to sue somebody. You're like, argh! But the people who did the terrible thing are dead. And sadly, the victims are dead. And so are the generation, for the most part. And I said, Lisa, what can you do? And I said, well, the only thing you can do is what they're saying they kind of want you to do, and you kind of want to do, which is tell the story. You're a storyteller. That's what you do. And it ended up being eternal. And I felt in the end, it was so dark, but then I found little bits of light. I promise you, I didn't try to shoehorn them in. I said, you learned a lot, but you can't get it in. You can't wedge it all in. It's not fun facts. But when I saw things like what happened in the hospital, for example, I visited that hospital. It's on my website too. It's a Catholic hospital attached to a church on Tiber Island. By the way, I got this. These are the actual map that's in the book, 1930s. I bought the rights. And so you can see, and actually on my website, there is a interactive maps. You can see where every scene is in the book. But you see Tiber Island, there's the ghetto. Tiber Island's really close. It's a 5-minute walk. If you've been there, you can walk across. There's Trastevere, and there's the Vatican. There's the Collegio Militare. It's 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And I said, I forgot one point. I feel certain that it was a very important point. In any event, I said, I know. It was, and I wanted to tell the story about that hospital because I went to visit it and I had read about it. And that is, I'm not giving anything away really, but that here were these Catholic hospital, nuns, doctors, who hear that when the Nazis are in town, that they're arresting the Jews of the ghettos and taking them away. And so what they decide to do on the spot is collect all the Jewish patients in the hospital, put them in one wing, and make up this story. How weird is this? The story is that there's an airborne virus that will kill you, and you can't go around these people. You must not go in this ward. And sure enough, and they called it Syndrome K, which is them having chutzpah, I guess, very cheeky stuff to say, all right, because the K comes from Kesselring, who was the commander of the Nazi commander, field marshal in southern Italy. And that actually worked. They saved the Jewish patients that day. And so were those moments of light. And when I worked through it and said, well, who's going to live and who's going to die? I didn't know people said, do you know how your books end? I don't even know how they middle. That's why I couldn't very well let the rabbi give you some very nice bill of goods about how classy and smart I am. And really, you meet me and you're completely disillusioned. Like, we keep it real in Philly. You know what I'm saying? So basically, but what I really felt like when this book was done, because you have to think a little bit. This is the English major geek part, and then I'll shut up and we'll take questions. But so all for like 30 years of my life, it's actually 40 really now I think about it. I am collecting quotes about the Jews of Rome, and I have them all, and I'm saving them, and I think about what's going to be in the front, because whoever makes the first cut on the front is a big deal, at least for me. And what kept coming up to me is love conquers all things. And I was like, Lisa, surely you can think of something better than that. Like, there was a little part of me that it felt like a Kathy card a little. I love Kathy, but it's a little bit like, I wanted to impress you. Like, I got some Keats stuff in there. Like, I got Yeats. I threw some stuff in. But I said, really what you've written is a book about love, because there's so much love in this book. There's the love, there's romantic love, right? Then there's the love between the friends, because even though Sandro and Marco compete, they always love each other. If they can't have her, they want the other one too. The families love each other, right? The Terrizzi family stands by Sandro's family. They try to help them. Then they realize they've fallen the wrong path. It ends up being a catalyst for them to change and realize that they have chosen wrong and chosen horribly, and they fight. And there's the love between Jew and Gentile, love between family members. I mean, Aldo is an anti-fascist. His brothers are fascist. Love of God, they worship in different ways, but they still love. Love of country, they love Italy. But some failed Italy miserably, and some didn't. Poor Aldo. And so I felt that a little bit. When I came to the very end, I never know what the title's going to be, because as you can tell, I can never think of just one word. I never say just one word. Don't even ask me how I am. I never shut up. So I was like, okay, somehow it meant eternal. And I'll tell you the reason was just because I was in Rome and I looked down the street and I saw all these different types of architecture. And I said, this is like a palimpsest, which is a word that I didn't even know I knew, that I think I studied for SATs. How impressive is that? And a palimpsest is when in medieval times, monks would write, and they would write on parchment, which was skin, and they would wipe it away, and some of the ink would remain, and they'd write on top of it. And so that became known as a palimpsest. A palimpsest is a layer of time made visible. And I thought, that's what I'm looking at in Rome. Everywhere you are in Rome, you see that. And then I said, well, Lisa, don't be an idiot, because partly what is really a layer of time made visible is family, is the rabbi and her mother, is me and my daughter who's in the other room, and my mother, sadly, who's passed, who emerged in this book as Nona, I might say. And so the book ends up being about, to me, then I just said that's eternal, because what really is eternal is love. And then I'll end with a great quote by Primo Levi, which he said, I saw a speech he gave. And this is what he said. He said, as long as you think of another human being as different from you, you will think of him as other than you. And if you think of him as other than you, you will think of him as less than you. And in the end, there is a camp. I think that's just unbelievably profound and true. It rings true to me, and he lived it. And that's what I really wanted to say in this book, that even though it may sound trite, it's just a truism. Love really is the answer. And I hope that comes through in the book. I hope I've done for the victims proud. I put some names, their real names are in this book for that reason. But most of all, I'm just so honored to be here, and I'm just so happy that you are interested in the story and that you've read the story that you want to, because that's what really matters here, the love that the story contains. So thank you. Grazie.
Thank you so much. Of course, we are now going to open things to Q&A, and wow, so interesting to talk to you. I just want to say that in the beginning of, you should know that in our Zoom room here, we have folks who are here from, I'm just going to name the places that people said they were in, from Reston, Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, Wilmington, Delaware, Columbia, Maryland, Litchfield, Connecticut, the South Island of New Zealand, because
Wow.
they're from Plymouth, Massachusetts, but they got stuck in New Zealand. But they wanted to see you, Lisa, so they came.
I am honored. Thank you for hosting me.
Temple Concord from Binghamton, New York, Solel congregation of Mississauga in Toronto, people from Ontario, Shaarei Tzedek congregation in East Lansing, Michigan. So we've got like really an incredible group of people from all over the place. I'm looking at my friend Arlene Labenson. She's here from North Carolina. And we have my mom and my mother-in-law from Florida. So you've got like, you know,
I'm so happy.
North Chapel Hill, North Carolina, somebody said. So we've got folks from up and down the East Coast and all the way over to New Zealand.
Well, I am so honored. Thank you. Well, ask me anything.
With that being said, I want to open things up to questions. And if you have a question, you can either raise your virtual hand, raise your actual hand, and I'll call on you, or you can put your, if you're shy, you can put your question in the chat box. And Roz Zelding says, Lisa, I've read many of your books, including Eternal, and love them all. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Who has the first question?
Did you get the questions that were emailed to you?
I'm going to look for those right now. I did get one or two of those. Mark and Marcia, I'm going to ask you first.
Hi, I do have one question about the portrayal of the church here. I mean, while you show a lot of individual acts of heroism in the church, I mean, the role of the Catholic Church, both in the rise of fascism and the complicity, I mean, you do mention how the inaction when the Germans went after the Jews, but in general, there didn't seem to be a lot about the role of the institutional Catholic Church in this whole history. And I was wondering if you had any comments on that.
Right. I mean, I think it's the book can only deal with so much, but honestly, I wanted to make clear, and I hope I did, that they basically had no role. I mean, it's horrifying. They did, in my opinion, they didn't help. They didn't do anything. And part of Susan Zuccotti has written a wonderful book called Under His Very Windows. And that's part of the reason I included the map in the book, because the Collegio Militare, in fact, in this memorial service, we walked from St. Peter's. It was in front of the Vatican, and there were church officials there on the 75th anniversary trying to sort of say they were sorry. But we walked from the Vatican to the Collegio Militare, where everybody from the ghetto was sent. They were all sent to the same place. It's a 10-minute walk. You can see it from the windows of the Vatican. So the church did not act in any official capacity. And, you know, they've released a lot of telegrams in the past year. While I was writing the book, and I went and got them all. There are thousands, but I got 1,200 of them. And you can just see people entreating them, particularly the Hungarian Jews, really petitioned, like, do something, do something. Their position was, and I put it in the book because I want to be fair. I don't make any judgments. I like to give the facts. Their position was, we worked through back channels. So they did look like Monsignor O'Flaherty was a real guy. Nobody stopped them. So we'll make the assumption that he did it with their tacit complicity. But I think it's a travesty that they didn't step up. I think it's horrible that they were inactive. I think and when you look at newspapers from that day, even the Vatican newspaper said nothing about it. 1,500 people were arrested because they were Jewish, 10 minutes away from the Vatican, and they don't say anything. So in a way, that's why I have Elisabetta at the train station going, I can't believe this. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe it either. It's awful. And, but that's why I wanted to bring it to light. I would have expected more. Your point is very apt, Mark.
Minna Bobek.
Well, first of all, I'm 90, so I was brought up during the war, and I'm glad you tell that story because I think it's important of all the stories.
Thank you so much.
But I'm curious as to why did you call the young Jewish boy, Alessandro, which was Mussolini's father, and her sister Rosa, Mussolini's mother's name? I thought that was funny. I
didn't really do that intentionally. Alessandro, I mean, there's a lot of Jewish boys named Alessandro. And frankly, the historian who helped me, his first name was Alessandro. And I just love it. Choosing character name is interesting because, and the very interesting thing about Italian first names is there's not that many. Like that's a whole thing. But you choose a name that you think suits the character. Everything in a novel has to underline who this character is, right? So and I go back and forth on names, and Alessandro, it had a softness to it, and Sandro has a softness to it, and it contrasted nicely with Marco. Right? That's who you would name Marco. He's bold, he's strong, he's kind of in your face, and you see that arc. Because in a way, look, you can decide who she chooses, and if she makes the right choice, I kind of think she did. And it takes you look how people change. It takes this whole war, like Marco says at the end, I lost a war. Marco changes in this book but Sandro was always that good. And so the names, even though there is that coincidence, I decided I wasn't going to sweat that stuff. I just had to choose names that spoke to me and I thought would help you understand these characters.
So you didn't do it purposely?
No, I didn't. Rosa is a very common first name for Jewish girls, and I just liked it. I liked the flower of it. I liked that she's strong. I liked that she could have some thorns. I liked that she's brave enough to come back. And here they are in this terrible situation. She won't leave her parents. And even though she encourages them to go, and by the way, it was a very reasonable decision to stay for the reasons I said before. So don't judge them. I really don't like that. But in any event, it's completely uncalled for in this case. But what's important to me, the point is anyway, that Massimo and Gemma, at the ultimate moment, decide to stay. They stay because their community needs them. Massimo as the lawyer who will help them get these pardons, and Gemma as so, you know, they're brave, they're heroes, and that's what that's not your question, but I got carried away. Thank you though. It's lovely to see you.
David, the only question I could find in my email that was sent in was from David Lepofsky. So if you sent me an email with a question and I don't have it, you need to raise your hand.
Yeah, I did. My hand's raised. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
so David, do you just want to ask your own question?
I'd be delighted to. Hi, greetings from Toronto, Canada. I'm a recovering practicing lawyer now, disability rights law prof. I love the book. My question, and you inspired me. The next book I'm reading now is a biography of Mussolini, because it's a piece of World War II history I haven't read, and I'm like, it's just got me absorbed. My question for you, it's amazing to get to talk to you, but I'm interested to know your take on how Italy and Italians are reacting to your book. When I was in Germany touring, I saw that Germany is very public about its Holocaust past. When I was in Austria, finding a museum that depicts what went on there, not so easy to do and much harder to do. When I was in Rome, I couldn't find one. There may be one, I haven't been there in years, but I'm interested to know to what extent this book is having an impact on Italy's perception of itself, and to what extent these events are publicly taught and memorialized there from what you saw.
Right.
Back to you.
That's really such an interesting question, David. I'll just tell you my 2 cents about it. First, as a quick aside, when I was in high school, I was an AFSer. There's an AFS program, which was you could go live with the family for 4 months. And actually I ended up living in Germany, in Osnabrück, which I put in the book. And my experience was exactly what you say, that I think they will talk about Nazism. They feel it's kind of guilty. It's not a verboten topic. They will talk about it. I did not have that experience in Italy. And I will tell you, this book is pretty newly published. It hasn't been published in Italy yet. Although I have gotten some letters from Italians who are fans of mine who are there. I do think that, this is just my opinion, I do think that Italy has yet to acknowledge its culpability. I don't find, for example, I mentioned to you the transit camp that I went to, which was a pretty well-known transit camp. It was the one on the way to Auschwitz. As I said, Primo Levi went there. It is only open one day of the week, and that day is Sunday. The day I went there was, and if you want to see it, I have films of it. They're in my website. Nobody else was there the whole day. There's only the barest stand. In other words, the educational, I have not been to Auschwitz or any of the camps, but I've certainly seen films about them. And there isn't an educational function for it. It's not easy to get to. They don't make it easy. I took a cab there, and when I got out of the cab driver said, "This is a stain on Italy's history." So I don't really think, this is just my take. I also am concerned about the rise of fascism more recently, and anti-Semitism. If you remember, just a couple of years ago, there's a big issue in Italy about the soccer games. There were just terrible anti-Semitic displays. And certainly there's a rise in fascism in Europe, and unfortunately here too. So I don't really think they've come to reckon with it. And I think part of that whole calling to account that Nuremberg did has yet to come to them. And so I'm really hoping that, I hope that there is, look, it's, once you know the story, you can't, as you know, as a lawyer, right? You can't unring the bell. You can't unknow it. And once you know it, I had the same reaction you did. I only wanted to learn more about it. Because in a way, fascism, we see Nazism as sui generis, right? That's Nazism. But fascism is a lot sneakier and a lot more pervasive. And for that reason, to me, is a lot more dangerous. So I hope that answers the question in the roundabout way.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I've been up for the Toronto Book Festival. I love it. It's one of the best run ones in the whole world.
How about you're muted?
Sorry about that. Other questions?
Anything.
anything. Okay, my colleague, Amy Bigman. Amy, Rabbi, why don't you just ask your own question? That's okay.
Okay, thank you. So I'm a big fan. I'm sorry I haven't read this book yet, but I'm just wondering if there's any Rosato and D'Annunzio books coming up soon. I'm hoping.
Rabbi, I am so honored. Yes, there are. You're very kind to say that. They're the original Nancy Drews. And you'll see I had an Italian Jew in that book. I snuck him in. But yes, I have a thriller coming up in March that actually got a starred review today, so I'm very happy. But Rosato will be next. And the next historical fiction is about Sicily and what happened after the Inquisition, which banished all the Jews from the island, which is just a remarkable story. So look, I have no personal life. All I do is write, and how lucky am I?
Oh, and how lucky are we? Thank you so much. And thanks for being
You're
with
very
us tonight.
kind. You're very, very kind. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I'm trying to see if there are any other questions for tonight.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please, Michelle.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your writing process and how you go about doing it? Like, what is your day like when you're writing?
Sure, I can tell it really briefly. I won't bore you, but if anyone's thinking about writing, I really encourage it. I mean, you know, your life story, whatever. And basically, I sit down, as I said, I don't know where the book is going. I just try to say what happened and then what would happen next. I write every day of the week. I write 2,000 words a day. That's my goal, and I must make it. Now, that can take me from 9 o'clock in the morning, which is when I start. I get Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Nothing happens without Dunkin' Donuts coffee. It's magic. I'm just telling you right now. And sometimes that takes me till 6 o'clock. Today I finished at 2. Today I got up by 2 o'clock. And I just go through. Hemingway says, write drunk, edit sober. Now, I don't do that. But the idea is, the secret little thing I tell myself is get it down, then get it good. Because if you're insecure like anybody worth knowing, honestly, then you're going to be like, I don't know, I can't do it, I suck, I'm stupid, whatever, where you get off. So you have to try to get it out of your body. And you're basically telling yourself the story. And then when you go through the second time, you're editing in a very, I say to myself, I think of Roth, who said to me, you know, to a certain extent, someone said to him, why did you become a writer? He said, because I like sentences. That's people who read books, right? We're all the same. And so I try to think, okay, I go through the second time, I go, justify yourself. I actually say that to every sentence. Do I need you here? If I told you that already, because God bless readers, because many of us, I sit and gobble a book up. You know, I read it in a sitting. And if you told me something on page 30, you don't need to tell me on page 60. I heard you. So I take it out, and you just edit relentlessly, especially if you tend to be a little talkative girl like me. I didn't even know I was like that till I wrote this book. I was like, oh my God, you're like her. Shut up. But that's the process. It's not glamorous, but that's what I like about it. I like to be able to demystify this because I love this country so much. And the First Amendment that I studied, as lawyers will know, is the First Amendment for a reason. It's first because the bedrock of this country is discussion and reading and storytelling. And every woman has a story. If you've spent 5 minutes in a ladies' room, you are going to tell a story or get a story. I have a best time in the ladies' room, just everybody yapping away. And so who doesn't want to know a story? If you have it, just write it down and don't get in your own way about it. Just let it come. I'm sure that, Minna, I'm sure your story of your life, Minna.
If Minna's muted, but I think she said you're absolutely right. It's actually true. She has an unbelievable story.
I can see it in her face.
Yeah, it's
her
really
adorable, beautiful smile.
And I did want to say, you know, it turned out to be very unexpected, my life. So I am writing about it.
Well,
are you writing about it, Minna?
Yes.
It's a book worth reading. She's a mighty woman, Lisa. I don't want to like be blowing smoke. It's the truth. Like Minna is really a mighty woman with an incredible story.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. And I can't wait to read it, Minna. I would love to read it.
Yeah. For those of us who know her, we love you, Minna.
Well,
Anyway,
I
okay.
really have to write it.
Good. Yes, you do. Jill, Rich, and Mark Menzer, you both have your hands up. So we're going to go with Jill first and then Mark.
So I just absolutely loved this book, and I was absorbed in it. And like you said, it was more than one sitting. It was a long book, but I read part of it in print and part of it in audio because the readers, if anybody has a chance to get the audio version, the readers were amazing. Elisabetta, and it was so great. It added so much to the book to hear it in that Italian readers. So I was wondering, I was expecting at the end to get the recipes for the different the pomodoro sauce. I
think I kind of blew that. But first, let me just say thank you, Jill. You're so nice. And I wanted to take 2 seconds to say how great the audiobook is. And it's a completely different work of art because I love audiobooks. I was talking to the rabbi before. I walk the dogs and I just love to listen to audiobooks. And Eduardo Bellerini, Cassandra Campbell, I was transported by what they did. I mean, it just was wonderful. I just loved it. So and that's what I'm going back to about telling a story. Every single word of this book I've said alone in my house. I have 4 dogs. I have 2 cats. They're like, will you shut up? But honestly, I just read the book out loud all the time because I want to know how it sounds. I want the sentences to flow and not be clunky or choppy or whatever. And so it's kind of fun to me to hear an audiobook because I know I read it in my house. I read the whole damn thing. It is long. But I forget what your question was.
About the recipes.
I know, I blew it. A lot of people said that. And that's my mother in there. And that's her gnocchi and cappelletti recipe. And, she didn't give it to me. She wouldn't give it to me. She said, you're a lawyer. You don't deserve it. I'm like, Mom, that's horrible. She was a very loving, but a little salty, just like Nona is. So my brother just listened to the book and he said, that is Mom. I said, I know it is.
You don't have her recipes? You can't publish a book of her?
I do have a gnocchi recipe, which is on my website, but it's like 12 steps. So I wish you a lot of luck. There are some recipes on the website, but I should have put them in the book, but I didn't want to treat it as a subject,
Okay.
Thank you. Mark Menzer.
Yeah. So first, as an aside, you should know there's actually no conversation in the men's room. So we're at a decided disadvantage. But you obviously, you did a lot of research and you said a lot of traveling for this book. So do you work on one project at a time, or is this something like you work over a long time, but you've got other writings going on at the same time?
Only the one. I get obsessed and immersive, and especially with this, I read a lot of period fiction, for example, Elsa Morante, because I really wanted it to sound, in fact, I'm such a freak that I made them, you hear that? There's a lot of cotton in this cover. I said, I want the cover to be cotton. I want this to be an old font. I'll show you something else I did. You guys are so nice. I won't bore you, but I bought this. This is an Olivetti typewriter. This is Elisabetta's typewriter. The Olivetti was a prominent Jewish anti-fascist family. Support them when you can. This was actually her typewriter. When I got it, I was like, oh my God, the keys are white. I got all magical about it and a little crazy. So I don't do anything else. I get carried away. I get immersed. That's the beauty of my job. I feel a little bit more like it's like when you read, that you get that's the joy and the kind of, to me, the magic of books. Like this is my dining room, like the books are everywhere. And these aren't even the signed books. I love to read. And so when you get immersed in a book, there's me on the other end getting immersed in writing it. And so there's only the one thing. I take a little break because I write a humor column on Sundays for the Inquirer, which you can read on my Facebook page for free every Sunday morning if you want. But otherwise, it's all eternal all the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So did I cover everybody? I just want to make sure.
So nice of you guys.
So Minna, you want to say, I'll turn things
Can I
back.
ask another question?
Of course.
I'm very glad I'm glad you left out the end of Mussolini and the violence that portrayed there. Was that a decision on your part, or?
No. Well, here's the thing. When you're writing fiction, you can only write what your characters see or know about, right? And really, in my case, what the characters see. And I didn't have a character who was there. It occurred in a different place. I didn't want to place it, and I thought it would be intrusive.
It
And
was.
so you're great because you obviously know so much of this history, and I love that you do. And I wanted to keep my focus on these people and bring their plight to life, because ultimately, isn't it kind of a story of the survival, the day to day that these people are so strong? I feel like, look, you know, we especially women, nothing, Mark, about men's rooms or anything, but I mean, David, that, you know, we, all of us, like when Maria says at the end, I never had this character, and I'll shut up, but I mean, a character has never happened in a book before where she doesn't say anything in the whole book. And then I was like, oh no, I did actually said, oh shit. But I was like, now I have 2 rabbis and this insulted. But I was like, she needs to speak and she's not going to want to speak. And then I said, well, that's what you have to use. And she is the plight, I think, of in a way, I said, this is like every woman or anybody who makes a meal and stands in front of a refrigerator and doesn't have what they need and says, what can I make with what I have? And I said, that is what it is to be a survivor of anything. What can I do with what I have? It isn't what I wanted. People are missing. Your life took a turn, Minna, many turns, it sounds like. But you did something with it and you went forward, and here you are. And I got to meet you. And this is just an honor. An
I'm
honor.
glad you didn't bring it up. I was afraid all through the book you'd bring it at the end. So
No.
I was very happy.
I'm
was happy
glad.
the way you ended it. It was
I'm
lovely.
glad. Thank you. I've done my job. If I made you happy, that's what I just decided.
So somebody said many of us feel that way. Bela, said, Bela, do you just want to make your point? Just unmute yourself for a second.
Oh, as your mother said, it would make a great movie. And I said, when we were talking earlier, many of us said that it would make a great movie. It would,
Well, that's
we just
very
like
nice.
the stories of everyone. We would, you know, it would make a really fascinating movie. I think people would really like it.
Well, that's lovely of you to say, Bela, and thank you for that. And it would be wonderful because I think it would get the story out and it would bring people to the book. But fingers crossed, your lips to God's ears.
Well, I will say, you know, first of all, I want to just thank you so much, Lisa. I think this book is so important because one of the things that, I generally don't pick the books. We have an incredible member of our congregation, Marcia Appel, and her husband, Mark Marcellus, who are the real researchers in terms of finding the right books for us to read. And then I say, oh, that sounds really great. So they make me look really smart. And and when Marcia and Mark Marcia brought this book to my attention, she said there really aren't a lot of books about, what happened to the Italian Jews. And she's so right. You said it tonight as well. And I found it totally fascinating. I mean, for me, this is such a great starter, really of, what's the word? Like it sparked my curiosity. And, but also one of the things I took from the book was how, there were moments where, you kind of say like how, and you talked about this in your talk, how did this happen? Why did the Italians follow Mussolini? Like, how is it, why did the Jews, I mean, I'm not giving anything away for those who haven't read it yet, but, how could the Jews have been fascists? How could the Jews have supported Mussolini? And as each thing happened, as and I was saying to you before we started the talk, I listened to it and there were moments and as things were slowly building up, as I was listening to it, and I was like, leave Italy while you can, people, like run for your lives, and you're wondering like, how can people allow this to happen? How could the Jews have stayed? How could the Gentiles and, all the other Italians have allowed this to happen? And the truth is like this, people never believe that these kinds of things can happen. It's the same story for the German Jews who really believed that they would be safe, that they were Germans and that people would, that German government wouldn't turn on them. And of course it did. So, and now of course today in our own country, we also are reminded, how can we let things happen? What do we need to stand up and use our voices for? How can we, or what can we, how can we do things differently this time? And I think that part of your story is also, it's the eternal, it's a different kind of eternal question. And so I, as the rabbi in me, feels like I have to say that too, that, we really can look around ourselves, look at what's going on in the world and say, how can we deny the truth that's in front of us? How can we, see that the writing is on the wall and there are folks who are still denying it, whatever that truth might be for you. I think it's probably pretty clear what my truth is.
Right.
So that being said, I want to just give you the last word. If there's anything else you want to say, such an incredible pleasure to hear you. We know what your next projects are. I want to just say, I'll turn things over to you in a second, but I just want to remind people that we didn't say it in the beginning. Obviously, we all know that Lisa is bleeds green as an Eagles fan and as a lifetime Philadelphian, and probably eats cheesesteaks. I don't know. Do you? What's your go-to cheesesteak place in Philly?
I'm a vegetarian, so I.
Oh, okay. And I'm a kosher Jew, so I don't eat cheesesteaks either. But I hear they're very good. So there you go. But I just want to, again, Rabbi Bigman talked about the Rosato and D'Annunzio novels. Lisa has several standalone fiction books. She is a New York Times bestseller. I mean, so many of her books have been on the New York Times bestseller list, not just for 1 week, not just for 2, but for several weeks in a row, which is an incredible accomplishment. Your mother must have been very proud, Lisa. So,
well, you are, Rabbi, I am so honored. Thank you, everyone. And there is something really important I want to say, which is happy birthday, Rabbi Mendelson.
Thank you. Thank you. So
enjoy. Stay safe, everybody. You especially. Thank you, Rabbi Bigman. Thank you, everybody. Marsha and Mark. I'm gonna love you guys. Stay well. Bye-bye,
thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'll just let people know, as Lisa, I'm sure has to go. I don't want to keep you any longer. Our next book talk is with Naomi Reagan. Her book is called her book is that she's coming to talk about is called An Observant Wife. But read the first book if you can, an unorthodox match. It's a great read, and it raises a lot of great questions. And she's an incredible author. She's coming to us from Israel, so the talk is at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and then she's coming on February 2nd, and I should have said on January 19th, which is two weeks from now, we have Andrew Filer coming, who wrote the book A Better Life for Their Children, Julius Rosenwald, Booker T. Washington, and the 4,978 Schools That Changed America. And that's at 8:00 on Wednesday, January 19th. So we'll send you, I will make sure to send you a link to this talk if you'd like to share it with someone, a link to buy the book on Amazon. We would, of course, prefer that you buy the book at your local independent bookstore. In Port Washington, it's called The Dolphin. Wherever you live, I'm sure there is one. If you'd like a signed book plate, email me and I will get you one. Lisa's, I don't know what they're called, but her people, the book people have said that they will send us signed book plates if you'd like one, and I'd be happy to forward one along. And I think I covered it. So thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great night. And just remember, on January 6th, there's something great to celebrate. And that's me. So tomorrow, when the news seems kind of hopeless and depressing, just remember that your favorite rabbi from Port Washington, as opposed to your favorite rabbi from wherever you live, if you're not from Port Washington, is turning 50, and that's a great milestone for America. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks so much again, Lisa Scottoline. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.